My name is Kathleen Madrazo, and this is the story of how I survived my grandparents' abuse as a child. I grew up in the Philippines. I have one sibling, but I lived with my grandparents when I was 4 years old. At first, I lived with my brother. When I was 4 years old, my mother was living with my brother's dad. They fell in love with each other. So later on, things got rough with them. So my mom thought it would be a better idea to give me to another family, and that would be my grandparents, since my grandparents thought, why not? We have the money, we can afford it better. So my mom thought, okay, I have no other way. I barely have any money. My parents have more money than I do. I will slowly take my kids away from my abusive ex-boyfriend. So that's what happened to me. When they gave me to my grandparents, it was at a meeting spot. My grandparents owned a store. And I will never forget that day. It was hard. My grandparents were stranger to me, even though I have seen them a couple of times before. And we went to the store. It was already closed by then. Everything was dark. Whoa, where am I? My grandpa, you see a person and they have this kind of aura in them, this authoritarian aura. And I was holding on close to my mom. I didn't know what was going on. And just when she took my hand slowly away from me, that's when I realized, oh, she was gonna give me away. And I screamed so hard. I was like, no, no, I was crying and I was hugging her so tight. My step grandma, she was holding me from the back on my waist, trying to grab me. And my mom, she was just trying to, trying to let me go. That was just trauma from the get go. Went into the house. The house was big. Everything was cold and strange. And I don't remember anybody comforting me except for one lady. She was the maid. We call her Nanay Intang. In the language in the Philippines, Nanay means mom, but like a very endearing way. And I still remember her. She was like a nanny to me. I really loved her so much. But the next day, I thought it would feel better. But my grandpa came again with this authoritarian figure here to say, good morning, grandpa. Good morning, grandma. Everything was so controlled in that house. That abuse happened right away. No one ever told me or explained to me that when you let out a number two as a child, that it could hurt and that it's normal. So I would wait as a child, I guess, to just, and my step grandma didn't like it. So I would come home with a dirty underwear and she would feed it to me. I was 4 years old. Everything was so structured in the house. Everything has to be controlled. Control your manners, control how you eat. Later on in life, my grandparents, they put me in a Catholic private school for girls. That school was also really structured. I mean, I do really love that school because I made some fun memories with a lot of kids. Until now, I am friends with on Facebook. My mom left me when I was 8 years old to Germany, and that was really hard for me too. She met a man in Germany, but she didn't know how hard the abuse was going on. My grandparents never said anything. She would call a couple of times. One time I did tell my mom I was abused. Well, it wasn't really telling her, I was crying for help. My grandpa got the idea of putting me in the Philippines. There are these sack of rice. They're like ye tall, like 5 foot tall. And I would fit in those sack of rice. And he thought, if we put a sack of rice, put her in a sack of rice, put a little hole in it and hang her on a tree, maybe that would make her grades better. But my mom, she coincidentally called that night. I heard she called. So I screamed to the top of my lungs. I was like, help, help, help. And that's when she heard it. And I think that's when she realized something was going on. But I guess she has her own issues with her husband back then in Germany. It's always about punishment in my family. It's like everything I do, somehow they turn something around and make it into my fault. So they would always find something for me to do to punish me, like making my whole closet folded. Even though the clothes already folded, I would have to fold them again. They would let me dust off every leaf in a plastic plant with oil to make it look nice and shiny. Our old maid, the one who's like a nanny to me, she would do the same thing. She was really old. I think she was like 70. And I really felt bad for her. Her and I, we have a very close bond because my mom wasn't there. She was like a second mom to me. She was everything to me. But I also had some friends from school, maybe two or three. We did normal things as far as normal kids would do. I tried to make my life as normal as possible, even though my grandparents, they would forbid me to go out and play. My grandpa, when my brother would come visit, he would let us compete with each other, and most of the time it's our appearances. See, he was a favorite grandchild. He was light skinned. I am dark skinned. In the Philippines, having light skinned is a very big pride. Like traditionally, it would mean, oh, your family doesn't come from farmers that would burn your skin. So, you're light skinned, you're rich. My grandpa thought I was so ugly. Like I was 9 years old. He said, oh, you can't even be a prostitute because you're so ugly. You cannot find a husband because you're so ugly. You cannot even be a maid because you don't know how everything works in the house. You don't amount to anything. You can't even be a mom. My step grandma, she did most of the abusing. My grandpa would just agree with her as he was the head of the family. So my grandma would do the deed. When she would find me outside to play with the other kids, because as she said, oh, you cannot make friends with those poor kids because their parents are drug addicts and you might end up like them. They're bad influence to you. Yada, 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 yada. If she would see me outside with them, she would dig her nails in my ears and she would drag me to the gate to our house. Later on, I always thought that my mom, maybe she didn't have a choice because my family is so controlling. I thought maybe she just wanted to leave because of that. And I thought, why didn't she bring us with her? I have always thought, is there something wrong with us? Who's gonna rescue me from all this? Because I felt like I had nobody except for the maids. But then it turned out that my mom didn't know how to work the papers, so she needed help by my step grandma. Who knows? Maybe my step grandma prolonged it. You never know. So I was 14 years old when I finally got all my papers done. I don't know if you still or anybody still remember the Y2K, where around the 2000 they said, "Oh, it will be the apocalypse," and I just wished my last wish was to see my mom again because I thought this torture will never end. I was locked up sometimes in a place called the underground in that house where I was like a prisoner, and I would be locked up there for a week. Sometimes they would chain me to a chair because they didn't want me to go out and play with those kids outside. Or I would be sick, and because my grades are so bad, they would still let me go to school with so high of a fever. So I started hurting myself, started all these scars on my arm. I was 11. started letting my anger out on myself. I couldn't find another way because who was gonna listen to me? I tried running out of that house, and my mom's half sister, she found me and she drove me back. So I just wanted to see my mom again. And thank God when I was 14, I came to Germany and I saw her. It wasn't everything I wished for. My mom was really popular in that small town in Germany. She owned a shop. They were a successful couple. They were in the news in that little town, but nobody knew she had two children. So when I went there, I had to call her aunt at first. So my mom and I, we had this struggle at first because we didn't have that mother-daughter connection. When I saw my mom, I was just so happy that I didn't want to talk about it at all. I just wanted to be with my mom. And my mom and I would both didn't know that I was already struggling with mental illness. So it was really a struggle for us. I never turned my back around after I stepped foot in Germany. Never again. I didn't want to go back there. I couldn't identify myself in the Philippines at all. Everybody called me ugly there because of my skin color. So I made it a mission that one day I will be pretty and I will do everything a girl wanted. And I kind of did. Joined a beauty pageant, became a photo model. I did all those things out of insecurity. I did do it not for myself. When I think about it, I did it all out of desperation just to prove something to those people. When I finally got out of my grandparents' house, I thought I was going to finally be happy. I was finally in Germany. I was finally with my mom. I was like, oh my goodness, this is so great. I didn't know it was going to follow me because of the abuse and the trauma that I had experienced. I developed a mental illness called borderline personality disorder. And when I got my first child, I got PPP, which is postpartum psychosis. Later on, with my other child, I developed postpartum depression. With my third child, I didn't, as I finally found the right man who was really helpful with my journey with my mental illness. And he really helped me so much when I realized in all this journey that I realized I could break up with a man, but I couldn't do it to my own family. They were on my Facebook all the time. They even went and visited me in the US in my house. I let them in. I was out of desperate. I wanted the recognition. They came in my house. I wanted to let them see how beautiful my house was, how organized my house was, how super clean my house was, because I showed them all that out of desperation that I wanted the recognition. And this is not what you should do to yourself. I realized I was torturing myself. Why did I keep them in my life? So I cut them off my life. And after that, I felt like my shoulders were so heavy this whole time. And I felt like I could breathe. And I told my children, I am very sorry. I apologize that your mom has been so depressed. I haven't really been here. Now you guys can finally stop worrying about me, because I know that sometimes they worry. They know when their mom is not doing good. And my advice to every parent out there is that when you have children and you are mentally ill, you have to be honest to your children about it. Because when my children knows that, oh, mom is not doing well, let's leave her alone. They go to their rooms, they play their games, they talk to their friends, because they know, okay, let's leave mom alone. Mom needs some time right now. It's better that way, because if you just keep stuff from your children, later they might hesitate to talk to you anymore. They might think, oh, something's wrong with mom. And you don't want that. What I can say to myself right now, and I don't know if that will work for other people as well, is that definitely boundaries are very important. healthy boundaries are important. Before, I would say I was a very, very good doormat. Give an inch, take a mile. People would take advantage of that. Learn to say, I am more without feeling guilty because you deserve that. And if you can cut ties, please do. Because you are just torturing yourself emotionally. I was finally able to move on when I finally confronted my demons. I went live on Facebook and I said, look what you did to a child. You cannot do that to a child. So I thought I'm going to pick and choose my family, and it worked out really well for me. And I confronted them and I finally had my closure. And my mom and I, we are finally at peace together. Before, I used to have this hatred towards my grandparents. And then I realized after I got my closure, I said, I don't even want any of that. All I want for them is just move on with your life. That's it. That's all I want. Just leave me in peace. I don't want people who are like me to develop even further with their mental illness, because I know how hard of a struggle it is. People always told me, share your story. Maybe there are people out there that are struggling with the same story. And I always thought, no, I feel guilty. I might hurt people. Then I realized, why do I feel guilty about hurting people who hurt me? I was thinking that way because of the thought process in my brain that I still have to overcome, that I'm still working on until now, bit by bit. I'm still working about it. I am working with a psychologist about it. I am taking meds. My family is helping me. They know my triggers. Now my goals is going into child development, if possible. I want to help children to stop developing into an even deeper depression or into a worse mental illness. It's really hard if you don't have the right support. And I know not everybody can afford support. So if I can be the support system for them, or if you can just give a parent maybe a list of things that she can do that could help her, maybe like a 10-minute list that she can do at least, I know that would help out a lot. Definitely. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you guys have learned a thing or two, something from it. I am very active in my community, and I hope it will help you to be active as well and help others out just like me. Remember, in us, there's always a child somewhere yearning to be loved. Have a great day.